The Bold and the Beautiful, a storyline so devastating and emotional that it is shaking up the lives of all the main characters. On Tuesday, April 22nd, the show delivered one of its most heartbreaking episodes to date, an episode that brought love, pain, loss, and irreversible consequences to the forefront. As we watched this story unfold, it became clear that no one would come out of this chapter unscathed, and the consequences would change relationships, futures, and families forever. The episode opened with a tender and peaceful moment. Liam, still recovering from previous health complications, was in his daughter Kelly's bedroom, gently reading her a bedtime story. It was a warm and intimate scene, a moment between father and daughter that felt sacred and comforting. But beneath the surface, signs of something terrible were beginning to emerge. Liam suddenly had trouble seeing, a symptom far worse than the dizziness he had been experiencing. At first, Liam tried to reason that it was probably just a lingering side effect from his previous brain injury, possibly from residual bleeding in the brain. But the truth was far more horrifying. The truth had already been revealed to someone else. Earlier that evening at the Cliff House, Finn had broken the terrible news to Steffi. Liam had been diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor. Not just dangerous, but terminal. There was no surgery, no simple treatment, and no miracle cure. For Finn, the diagnosis was clear. For Steffi, the emotional impact was devastating. As Finn explained the grim reality, Steffi could barely process the words. Her body shook. Her mind raced. Her heart was breaking. She was losing Liam. Not figuratively. Literally. But as a mother and someone who still cared deeply for Liam, Steffi knew she had to do the unthinkable and be the one to tell Liam he was dying. She refused to let him hear it from anyone else, not even Finn. This was her burden. This was her responsibility. And this was the hardest thing she had ever done. After putting Kelly to bed, Liam returned to the living room where Steffi was waiting. But something was wrong. Very wrong. Her face, usually bright and calm, was creased with silent tears. Her eyes were red. Her hands were shaking. Liam noticed immediately. He tried to comfort her. He figured something was bothering her. He thought it was probably about Kelly or some family issue. He reminded her that anything could be worked out. That whatever it was, they could work it out. But then the words came, slowly, painfully, with all the strength Steffi could muster. She told him it wasn't about family. It was about his health. She explained what Finn had discovered. She explained that the tumor was real, it was growing, and there was no way surgery could cure it. She told him that his body was failing and that he was, in the most direct and ultimate sense, dying. He immediately denied it. He insisted that there had to be some mistake. He told Steffi that doctors had been wrong before. He argued that medicine changed every day. There had to be something else. Some option. Some experimental testing. Some hope. His eyes searched desperately for a sign that she was wrong. But Steffi, though broken, remained steadfast. She had seen the scans. She had heard the prognosis. She knew this wasn't a case of mistaken identity or a technical error. This is true, but Liam still can't let go. In the coming episodes, viewers will see Liam fall into despair. He refuses to lay down and accept his death sentence. He begins researching clinical trials and contacts with specialists around the world. He asks for second opinions, third opinions, any opinion that doesn't fit Finn's devastating diagnosis. In his mind, surrender is not an option. Meanwhile, Steffi is caught between hope and grief. She wants to support Liam's fight, but she's also facing the truth. And so is Finn. Finn, witnessing Liam's fight against the inevitable, finds himself on a moral and medical precipice. He knows the tumor is terminal. But he also knows that sometimes patients need to believe in miracles. And in a moment of passion, loyalty, and perhaps desperation, he makes a choice to try something radical. Despite the dire warnings of his mother, Lee, and despite the risks involved, Finn decides to pursue a high-risk, unapproved surgical procedure in a last-ditch effort to remove or shrink the tumor. Lee begs him to stop. She pleads with him, warning that the risks are too great. Liam's condition leaves him vulnerable. If the surgery fails, it will not only fail, it could kill him outright. But Finn, blinded by the need to save Liam, by his guilt and his love for Steffi, pressed forward. The day of the surgery arrived. Tense. Quiet. The hospital staff prepared for the impossible. Liam was wheeled into the operating room with a faint hope based on uncertain science. Finn entered the room. Lee watched from the sidelines, terrified that her son was about to destroy everything. In the middle of the surgery, Liam suffered a massive brain hemorrhage. His brain began to bleed uncontrollably. Monitors blared. Alarms blared. Finn and the chief surgeon rushed to stabilize him, but it was too late. Liam's heart rate began to drop. His pulse weakened. Despite their best efforts, the worst happened and Liam lost consciousness. Outside the operating room, Finn collapsed. The emotional weight of what he had done crushed him. The silence of defeat was louder than the noise of the machines. The man he had tried to save was gone. Steffi is told the news. Her screams echo throughout the hospital. She falls into Finn's arms, but then retreats. Her grief quickly turns to rage. She blames Finn for ignoring the warnings, for playing God, for killing the father of her child. She looks him in the eye and says the words he fears most. "You killed him." Steffi pulls away from Finn, unable to forgive him for taking Liam from her. Hope arrives at the hospital and learns the news. Her knees buckle. She can't comfort him. Beth has lost her father. Kelly has lost her father. Bill Spencer arrives and nearly punches Finn in the hallway. Wyatt is called, and his devastation is immense. Everyone feels it. A brilliant, flawed, human man gone too soon, too suddenly, too unfairly. A memorial service is planned. The Forrester house is black. Eric cries. Ridge remains silent. Brooke, already haunted by her own recent trauma, is on the verge of a breakdown from grief. Taylor returns from Forrester Creations only to find her daughter broken, her grandson fatherless, and her medical community failing them. The show continues in the days that follow, but the loss is permanent. Liam Spencer's death becomes a turning point. Finn isolates himself, haunted by his failure. Steffi breaks down, overwhelmed with guilt for asking Finn to do the impossible. Hope must explain to Beth why her dad never came home. And viewers wonder what might have been if things had gone differently. This is the story that will define the coming weeks on The Bold and the Beautiful. A story about life, death, and consequences. A story about love, medicine, misjudgment, and the unbearable cost of hope. A development that could mark the end of an era for two key characters, Thomas Forrester and RJ Forrester. After months of subtle hints and behind-the-scenes changes, it now seems almost certain that Matthew Atkinson and Joshua Hoffman, who play Thomas and RJ, respectively, have been written out of the show. Let's start with what we know for sure. In late December 2024, The Bold and the Beautiful released an updated opening credits. It's always a moment that fans pay attention to, as it's often a clue as to who's coming, who's leaving, and who the show plans to focus on in future episodes. In the new version of the credits, both Thomas and RJ are noticeably absent. At the time, fans hoped that this might just be temporary, perhaps a change in creative focus or a rotation in character attention. Matthew Atkinson, Thomas, and Joshua Hoffman, RJ, were last seen on screen in the official cast credits during the episode that aired on Friday, March 28th. Fans who closely follow such updates, especially those who record the show on DVR or stream it on Paramount, immediately notice the change. While the show rotates the full cast credits about once a week, Thomas and RJ's absence from both the intro and end credits has become a regular occurrence, raising concerns that their departures are not just temporary but permanent. On DVR broadcasts, cast credits typically run below the screen, often over promos for other CBS shows. On streaming platforms like Paramount, cast credits are easier to see. Screenshots from Paramount clearly show that as of March 28th, both Matthew Atkinson and Joshua Hoffman were still included. But in subsequent episodes, including the latest from Friday, April 18th, both actors' names have been completely removed. No credits list. No confirmation. This quiet removal is often the final nail in the coffin when it comes to soap opera departures. Unlike some primetime or streaming shows, daytime dramas rarely make official statements about actors leaving. CBS, and especially Brad, Belle's The Bold and the Beautiful, has a long history of letting actors fade from the story without fanfare. No press releases. No social media posts. No farewells. Just silence. RJ's absence was something many fans accepted without much reaction. While Joshua Hoffman's casting brought a fresh energy to the role, RJ as a character never became as deeply embedded in the main storyline as the rest of the Forrester cast. His reemergence was quiet, and his storylines, which mostly revolved around romance, sibling tensions, and occasional tech-driven corporate conspiracies, never reached the level of drama fans have come to expect from the Forrester legacy. Played by Matthew Atkinson since 2019, Thomas has been at the center of some of the Bold and the Beautiful's most tense and controversial storylines in recent years. From his obsessive pursuit of Hope Logan to his infamous mannequin storyline, to his redemptive arc as Douglas' father and designer for Forrester Creations, Thomas has always been one of the most dynamic and layered characters on the show. Whether you love him or hate him, Thomas is never boring. And Matthew Atkinson's portrayal has brought depth, darkness, and ultimately empathy to a role that could have easily gone astray. Losing Thomas without an official exit, a farewell episode, or even a brief mention in dialogue is not only a blow to longtime viewers, but also to the dramatic backbone of the show. Thomas is not only Ridge's son, he's also the central figure in the power struggles, family dynamics, and romantic relationships that drive the show. His relationship with Hope, rivalry with Liam, deep tension with Brooke, and loyalty to Steffi created emotional tension that few other characters could replicate. The fact that both Thomas and RJ were written out at the same time hints at a larger creative decision, perhaps a shift from the next generation of Forresters to refocus on legacy characters or newer ones. It could be that the writers are streamlining storylines or making room for upcoming drama involving Ridge, Steffi, Finn, and the Logan women. Still, the silence surrounding the departure of two of Ridge's sons, especially one as important as Thomas, is disappointing. It's worth noting that CBS daytime dramas, and The Bold and the Beautiful in particular, are rarely transparent about these changes. Unlike shows that make splashy announcements when characters leave or actors are replaced, B&B often opts to quietly kill off characters, leaving fans to piece things together. That's exactly what happened here. There was no announcement. No goodbye. Just missing names and blank spaces. Of course, nothing in the world of soap operas is truly permanent. As any longtime viewer knows, characters often return months or even years after they've explicitly left. Actors come and go based on contracts, storylines, and real-life decisions. It's possible that Matthew Atkinson or Joshua Hoffman could return at a later date if the storylines require it or if fan demand is strong enough. But for now, all signs point to their departures being final. And so, as of this writing, it looks like The Bold and the Beautiful has written off both Thomas and R.J. Forrester. Their absence will certainly be felt, especially for Thomas, whose presence was so central to the show's core family structure and emotional arc. Without him, the show would lose a source of tension, creativity, and emotional depth that won't be easy to replace. We'll continue to monitor credits, episode updates, and any official or unofficial information from the network or the cast. If CBS or Brad Bell decide to confirm their departure or tease their possible return, we'll be the first to let you know. But until then, the evidence is clear. Ridge Forrester's sons are gone, and The Bold and the Beautiful may never be the same again.